you're not allowed to see what's behind me yet because frankly, well, we forgot to film an intro and spoilers. About a month and a half ago, we bought a new office. And by new, I mean very, very old. It was a grandma house with grandma carpet that was stinky and grandma wallpaper that was stinky. And my office was the stinkiest of all the rooms and I just didn't want to deal with it anymore. But during the due diligence period, I was smart. And I pulled up the corner of that stinky carpet and found, oh, gorgeous, gorgeous hardwood floor that had been there for decades and decades and decades. Now, it was orange, and so we needed to remove the carpet and hire an expert, because I certainly couldn't do it, to come sand the floor down, to redo a very natural lacquer, and to refinish it so that it looked superb. And boy, does it look superb. We have beautiful hardwood floor now, but nothing else. Still just absolutely garish wallpaper and no furniture to speak of. So now that our floor is done, and this room is significantly more echoey, it's time to remove this absolutely garish wallpaper. Thank you to Jeff from the Home Renovation YouTube channel. I've used this channel a lot over the last several years for DIY help and projects. And the best way to remove wallpaper, according to him, and it's worked out so far, is to use a knife to kind of pull up the edge, and then you just pull the paper off the wall. Not shabby. Now you'll notice that there is a bunch of paper still left on the wall. It's a paper that's bonded. You have the kind of pulpy part that sticks to the glue, and then you have the top surface that actually has the design. We've only pulled off that top surface.
Moving wallpaper off the wall. Sometimes it comes off and sometimes it doesn't. You gotta enjoy the song while we have it, and wallpaper, it comes off.
Okay, so getting the paper off, not too bad. This part kind of sucks. I've already done half the room, but basically what you've got to do is with the remainder paper on the wall, you just take a sponge that's wet and you wet this paper to have it absorb a bunch of the moisture to reactivate that glue and to kind of get it ready to pull off the wall. You'd think, oh, how wet am I supposed to get it? One pass? No. You've got to do this like 7 to 10 times to get the paper wet enough and for it to absorb enough such that you can kind of pull it off. And then once you get there, depending on how lucky you are, you can kind of pull it off in strips. Sometimes the strips are tiny, sometimes the strips are huge, but you kind of just slowly work it until the paper is ready to come off. And when it's not wet enough, like this, it starts to flake. So you gotta wet it more with the sponge. But if we come to a surface that should be wetted enough, you can pull it off in big strips. And in theory, it's not too much trouble. In practice, it's still trouble. Oh, I'm glad we just paint stuff now. And sometimes you get it all off in one nice peel. It's awesome. What's not awesome? It makes your hands smell so bad. This is like 50-year-old glue. There's probably lead in it. Now with the wallpaper removed, we need to sand, prime, and paint, and through the power of money, the problem is fixed. Yeah, I didn't have the time or the gumption to do this. I'm in the middle of a kitchen remodel myself at home, so I paid somebody, and it wasn't a great deal, but it's done. And they left me this wall to deal with, which is the wall that we are going to cover in accent wallpaper. What I'm going to apply right now is called Zinsser Guards. It's basically a primer that's going to give us a new substrate. It's a water-based primer because this wall has got some issues. We've got some fresh joint compound, which is very porous, and then we've got a bunch of this old adhesive from the wallpaper that we pulled off. And if we don't remove that, it can reactivate, it can bubble our new wallpaper. It's just no good. So what I'm gonna do is just take this very creamy milk-like substance and using no floor protecting, because my painter decided that the roll of paper that I bought for myself was now his, I'm just going to apply this very wet coat to the wall. And this should spread out and give us a nice new surface that we can directly apply our wallpaper paste to. While I wait for that wall to dry and for my pizza to cook, I want to get my new computer set up. This is the longest I think I've ever bought a machine and not set it up. I've actually been using my M2 MacBook Air and Vision Pro with the new betas where it gets all big and huge, and it's cool, but I want a real computer again. And so here we are with the Mac Mini. This is the M4 Pro configuration. So it's not the one that you've seen me take apart. It's not the one we've compared against the PC. No, this is a base model M4 Pro, but with upgraded storage. So I've got a terabyte of storage and a 10 gigabit Ethernet NIC inside so I can communicate with my server. And it's going to be replacing this M1 Max Mac Studio. I've been using this for about a year and it's fine. It's not the single core powerhouse that I need it to be because I don't really do any video editing. This is what we used to edit all of our videos on. Benjamin was using this, but then he moved to an M3 Max MacBook Pro because there was no M3 Max Mac Studio. And so, yeah, it's fine, but I'm ready to get rid of it because even my M2 MacBook Air, honestly, for what I do, feels faster. Look at that. I always thought the Mac Studio, when it came out, I'm like, oh, it's amazing how small this is and how powerful this is. This thing is huge. it's like, no joke, like 3.5 to 4 times the volume, maybe more of the Mac Mini. This is just so tiny and so cute. And why are you not turning on? Good pizza, good pizza. This is a Kirkland Signature Supreme Cauliflower Crust. Normally I'm not a cauliflower crust guy, but this is pretty good. It's on now. Benjamin said, oh, it just needs to warm up. And I'm like, that's not a thing. Apparently it is on this display. Is it time for me to buy him a new screen? No. You can keep using this one until it's fully broken. Okay, I would like to transfer a bunch of broken things that I probably shouldn't from another Mac. Okay, and we want to transfer a bunch of broken things on this Mac Studio to another Mac. Fresh install? Nah, I live life on the edge. Okay! Bada boom, bada bing, preparing to transfer the documents. Connection details. This should be Thunderbolt 3. Yes, it is Thunderbolt to Thunderbolt, sampled at 2.6 gigs per second. Heck yeah, that's gonna be fast. And this takes forever, and then half of it doesn't work anyway. Great, let's go set up some furniture. All right, that wasn't that heavy, but the rest of the furniture really was, and it's often said that furniture quality can be determined by the sheer weight of it. If that's the case, then today's sponsor, Vernal, makes really good furniture because this stuff is heavy. And what's great about them is, well, I'm most excited about their standing desk. They don't just make standing desks, they make everything. Storage cabinets, file cabinets, nice little tables, chairs, they do it all. And the great part about that is you don't have to cross shop between a bunch of different places and wonder, will the woods match? They just will because they're all made by the same company. And boy, did they send over a lot of stuff. So let's start building this storage cabinet maybe. All right, starting, let's see. Okay, I think this is D. Oh, yep. There it is. Oh, that's a nice drum fill. It's like Phil Collins in that one song. And now I'm building this thing that's black and made of wood, just like my pocket knife. And I'm putting it together and it works really good. And now, hey, check it out, it's a chair. This is made of plastic mostly, but it's also made of metal. Some plastic, some metal, other things too. And oh, now look, there's new wood. This is not very exciting, so let me tell you some fun trivia. In 2001, Apple released a music player. It was called the iPod, and you could hold 5,000 songs in your pocket. Maybe it was 1,000 songs, I don't really remember. It was a certain number of songs. Oh yeah, this lamp, this was really hard to put together, and I bought the wrong light bulbs, and I had to take them back to Lowe's. Anyway, thanks for watching this video. Subscribe. All right, I think my wall is fully prepped and ready for papering. If it seems like I know what I'm doing, you've been deceived. I don't. I do have a master's degree, but it's from YouTube University. I'm just parodying what I've heard online. I prep the wall based on the way that a lot of people have recommended I prep it using a product called Shields because it lets you move the wallpaper around. Some people say it's dumb and unnecessary. I don't know, it was like 10 bucks. I did it anyway. Moving on, this is the wallpaper, and I love this wallpaper. It is very grandma coded. I know it's going to be controversial. I don't care. This isn't your office, it's mine. And I think when we put all the modern furniture in there, this somewhat grandma-y wallpaper is gonna look super, super cool and warm and amazing. We have some wallpaper paste because, well, we need glue to stick it on the wall. Here it is. everything reminds me of her. And I have a laser level right here because here's the thing about walls. They're kind of persnickety things. And your corners are never fully square unless you have the world's best contractor on the planet. And so rather than align the wallpaper to the corner, because the corner is not actually straight, I'm going to align it to a level that is straight because gravity. And I've been told to be quite generous with this. Here is the pro tips as I've so been instructed. You put the roll on the floor. Okay, you're then gonna take your paper, drag it up. We're gonna line it up as best we can with our laser level up here. Right there, okay. Pretty happy with that, maybe over slightly. And then you kind of just get it rubbed out in one section. Go up towards the wall. You just want to make sure that you've got full, even contact on every bit of the paper and all of the glue. Okay, so we've got the first layer down, ready to go. We've got the wall glued behind us, and it's now time to put our second thing up. Here's the deal though, we've got to align it with the pattern, and unfortunately, that is not so aligned. So we're gonna need to pull the paper up and just keep pulling, 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 until we get an alignment. Which kind of sucks because all of this paper just becomes waste paper we're gonna cut off. But we do wanna make sure that our patterns are lined up correctly, because if not, what is the point? Hold on, that's not even lined up correctly. Oh, yes it is. There's just a half of a star on that. All right, that's kind of weird, but you do you. And we've got a lot of glue on this paper because we need to make sure that the corners are stuck down. And it's fine because we can just wipe it down with a wet sponge after we're done. But we really do need to make sure that our alignment is dead on to begin with. Well, I'm finished. Why am I standing like this? Well, this is a noisy jacket. Why am I wearing the jacket? I spilled glue on my shirt. Where's my shirt? It's in the washing machine. Why am I not shirtless? You have to pay for that. In any case, this looks really, really good, and there's no problems or mistakes anywhere. Except for this here seam right here. You see, my painter assured me that despite this wall being convex slightly and this wall being concave slightly, that over the course of the wallpaper, I wouldn't have any problem. I'd have no issue realigning it. Well, he was a liar, and I am smart, even though I don't know anything about what I'm doing because I just understand basic geometry. Yeah, I got to this point and I was about a 1/16 of an inch off. I pulled the wallpaper in as tight as I possibly could. The seam and the pattern doesn't align up here, but if I align it down here, it doesn't align up here. And if I align them in both places, then this is not straight, and therefore I cannot continue the wallpaper and my life is ruined. It's just one little part. Nobody will probably know, but I will forever, and I will always be sad. What is in here? Oh, wow, look at all the treasures. LTTstore.com. Okay, here's the thing. I've got the wall up. Before I move the furniture in, I want to put a light fixture in. And yeah, this is hideous. Despite these going for like a couple $100 on Etsy, people want these apparently. But I don't. I'm going to put in a light that many of you will think is equally, if not perhaps potentially more ugly. But I don't care because this isn't your office, it's mine. You know, one thing I will say, even though the build quality of this is not bad relative to some stuff I've seen, it ain't great. They sure don't make stuff like they used to. That old light was really well built. Too bad it's so freaking ugly. Okay. You know what they say? Get the black wire. Do I use the wire nuts from the 1950s or the wire nuts from this cheap Amazon light? I'm not sure I like this. This was one of like 6 options. It went on sale and it was the cheapest. And then also Twitter. So blame Twitter. Everyone on Twitter was like, oh, that's my favorite. And it wasn't even close. This was by far the #1 pick. So one of the things that a lot of people don't like about the Caseta switches is that they're push buttons. And I will admit the buttons, they don't feel very good. These ones are like old school toggle switches, but they still have an LED-based dimmer that looks really, really nice. So this is something that I wanted to try. They're a little bit more money, but they are more normal light switch-esque. Yeah, this is a pretty shoddy workmanship. At some point, there was a three-way switch in here. They pushed one of the wires back into the wall, and then the two hots and the two neutrals that are coming in, they bonded them together, and then using duct tape and probably nothing else, gave us new bare copper wires to work with. This is not ideal. It's absolutely not up to code. Potentially a fire hazard. But you know what they say, if the house hasn't burned down yet, it'll probably be okay for a little bit longer. I'll deal with it later. This is the problem with old houses. They put too many wires that are not up to code in a box that is far too small for these modern switches. Yeah, I'm gonna have a little bit of wiggle in this switch plate because frankly, my drywall is not flush and my switch is not flush against said drywall. I'll come back and fix this later, but there's a concept that a lot of people don't seem to understand. It's an important one to have in life, and it's called good enough. It is. It is good enough. All right, let's go see, turn the breaker on. We'll see if I burn the house down. All right, moment of truth. All the Lutron switches have this handy little pull-out tab that cuts power. And when I push this tab in, the light is either going to come on or we're going to hear a very loud pop. I'm an electrician, boys. Look at that though, that's nice. It's got a manual dimming slider with a nice LED. Oh, and boy, do those LEDs dim. I want these all over my house. These are so much better than the Caseta ones. I love them. It seems old Snazzy wasn't too far off the mark. This room is really coming together and I think it looks pretty dang cool. The only thing I'm missing is the place I spend my entire day, the desk. So without further ado, let's assemble my Vernal executive standing desk. Executive, fancy. Putting this thing together was an absolute breeze because, to be honest with you, the majority of it was already assembled. I just had to add the legs and the feet and I was off to the races. There was very clearly detailed instructions with fantastic illustrations, plain English text, and every step of the process had extra screws and bolts, which is fantastic to see in the event you lose one or drop one or strip one on accident. It was a real piece of cake to put together. And the end result is a desk that looks many times nicer than its low price would suggest. Seriously, I think this thing ties the whole office remodel together. And what's fantastic about it is that it's an all-in-one system. So you buy the standard standing desk, you know, the frame and the tabletop, but you can add basically anything you want to it. So these side panels that make it the executive desk, you can add those. That front panel, same deal. This modesty panel, where when I raise it up, you can't see my groin. That's another feature that you can choose to upgrade to in this all-in-one system. Another good example, something that I'm actually pretty interested in that I've never tried before, is a keyboard and mouse tray. I've never been a big fan of these historically, but one of the problems that I've had with the studio displays, especially this one that is the tilt-only display, it doesn't adjust up and down, I'm freaking tall. And so when I put my hands comfortably on the desk in a position where I don't get RSI, the display is too low. And this allows me to put my keyboard and my mouse, trackpad rather, a few inches lower than I normally would. And what's great about this system is, unlike a lot of other desks out there where you have to screw into the bottom of the MDF and you're ruining your brand new desk that you just set up and there's no pilot holes, this not only has pilot holes, but it has threaded bolts so that you can just screw stuff directly in. And it's not just a keyboard tray. They've got other stuff like a PC holder if you've got a desktop PC or a gaming PC. They've got stuff for filing cabinets. Like, the accessories that they've got as part of this all-in-one system is amazing, and it helps you build out your desk exactly the way you want for a very, very low price. There's other accessories like, look at that. Hey, I've got 120 volt power that I've got right on my desk. I've got cable pass-throughs on the other side. All this stuff is already done. There's no hole saws, there's no drilling, it's just ready to rumble. And one of the nicest things about this is that the motor system is pretty quick. Not only is it pretty quick, but it's really, really stable. If you've ever used a standing desk, you know that at its maximum height, most standing desks really, really wobble. This one can't beat physics. There's still a little bit of wiggle when I type on my keyboard. You'll see that the leaves ever so slightly move. But what you don't notice is that the monitors are wobbling back and forth. And even if I move the desk with my hand pretty aggressively, there's only the slightest bit of lateral shake. This is not something that you will find on most standing desks, especially in the price point where this thing is operating. So I really think you should go check out Vernal, not just their standing desk, but the other furniture. This chair is from them. That little sideboard cabinet over there is from them. The furniture's ready to go, it's mixed and match, it looks great, and the price is right, especially so for Black Friday. There are a lot of deals that you ought to take advantage of. Go check out Vernal with the link in the video description. Yes, I'm very famous. No, I'm just kidding. I'm actually really excited for this. This is the first time that I've ever had a real office. Truly, I don't think that up until this point in time, I've really had a say in what the office looks like, the vibes that are in there. I haven't chosen the furniture, and this is like all me, exactly the way I want. And my productivity has already skyrocketed in just the few hours that I've spent at my computer here in this room. And so I'm excited to see what's to come. But we got this little green chair, a nice little chilling area where I can do a little email on my iPad. Benjamin and I can chat when we have a meeting about what's coming forward in Snazzy Labs. And then, well, I've got a bunch of old tech here in this Vernal cabinet that I like to look at, like my GameCube, a Commodore 64, the Red Hydrogen one. Remember that piece of crap? And check this out. I bet you haven't even seen one of these before. This is a first generation iPad. You've definitely seen those before. But they also had this keyboard dock where you could not only dock and charge the iPad, but connect to the keyboard that basically looks and feels exactly the same as Apple keyboards today, but vertically. This was back before Apple thought you were really going to use an iPad in horizontal or landscape position at all. That didn't age so well. I've got some paint that I got to get rid of, but you know, little by little. And then over here, this is the Tech Museum. This is like my favorite stuff that Apple has ever released. I love the G4 Cube, absolutely iconic. The 2015 12-inch MacBook is still, you pick this thing up today and you're like, this is not real. How did they make a computer this thin? And yet they did it almost 10 years ago, and no computer they've made since is even close to as wonderful. We've got my iPod collection here. I've got some more. I've got a mini. I've got a lot of them. But I love the iPod Shuffle lineup. We did a video a few months ago unboxing many of these new. That was a blast. And then we've got the first generation and of course the third generation, which this one's my favorite, even though everyone who's like a real Apple fanboy that ever owned one of these hates them because you would bump these buttons all the time and they were capacitive and it wasn't as good as the click wheel. But like, look, that's just, that's a gorgeous looking iPod. I love it. What else have we got here? The Newton eMate. This was designed for classrooms. You could have handwriting recognition. You could connect to the internet, kind of, somewhat, by using a modem to send like rudimentary email and kind of basic communications back and forth. And then down here, oh boy, we've got an original Apple TV. It's been a long time since I've seen one of those. That is basically a Mac in a little cube that you could run Mac OS on, honestly, if you wanted to. And tvOS was originally just a fork of Mac OS. Front Row, I believe the software was called, and it was a modified version of that. It was great. Actually, the original Apple TV was a real pile of garbage, and it took Apple a long time to kind of get its footing. We got an Apple Pippin, which is, of course, the failed game console that they made with Bandai Namco. And yeah, then we've got the desk. Up here we got a pair of HomePods that are in stereo mode. We've got my dual displays. One has a height and tilt adjust stand, as I mentioned earlier. The other one's just tilt only, so I've kind of made them the same height, and then I still need a little bit more room, so I've 3D printed a little stand for that one over here. I've got my Lutron remote so that I can turn my lights on and off remotely. It's not set up yet, but it will be soon. Another plant. And then, yeah, my keyboard and trackpad. This keyboard is not good. I don't like it, and I'm getting rid of it. One of the other things I thought that's pretty good about this keyboard tray is, check this out. If I slide this out all the way to the end, there's little cable pass-throughs. And so I can just leave this stuff charging and connected to my computer all the time. And so I don't have to worry about aesthetics, but I also don't have to worry about batteries. Fantastic. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the office. Oh, I have some art. Should we talk about the art? Yeah, these are posters. Welcome, welcome. Arches, Bryce Canyon, Canyonlands, some of my favorite national parks inside of Utah. And then over there, of course, we have the famous Jonathan Ive form over function, aluminum on canvas. That's when I took my 2019 Mac Pro and cut the bottom off so that I could take the top of the lid off while the machine was still running. Good times. And thanks so much for watching. You guys are really the greatest. Get ready for a bunch of awesome content coming from this channel and from this office into the future. But most importantly, and as always, stay snazzy.